everybody, it's Tia Torres, and here we are with another episode of 90 Day Felon. I thought on this episode I was going to talk about the next phase in, being released from prison, things you got to do to, try and stay out and stay on the right track. But then it hit me that I was missing out on probably one of, if not the biggest hurdle that many people coming out of prison are going to face. And that is substance abuse, whether it's drugs or alcohol. I was just looking at some statistics online, and, the average seems to be about 50% or so, around there, of violent offenders are under the influence of something. And then when you get into like robbery and theft, burglary, it seems to be up to 60% of those people are under the influence. I would have to say it's higher. I'm just going by experience from people that I have hired to people that I've been married to. And it's mainly drugs, but that seems to be the common denominator. Now, to be fair, I don't want you to think I'm, got my head in the sand and I'm just naive. I used to be one of these people that said, ugh, just because you do something you regret later because, supposedly you're on drugs or supposedly you were drunk, bullshit. That's no excuse. You should still be able to have the wherewithal to know what you're doing. And I used to think like that because I've never done drugs or drank or even smoked cigarettes. I tried cigarettes once when I was like a kid. So I thought I was so fucking cool too. All I got was a sore throat. Anyways, so, my thinking back then was very narrow-minded because I did not know what it felt like to, quote-unquote, not be in control of yourself. It took me years and years, hell, decades later to finally realize that I was wrong. And it came from actually personal experience. So I am going to tell you a little story here that I've never, ever said to anybody. So y'all are the first people to hear this. But my marriage to my last husband, now ex-husband, AJ, who some of you know from, making an appearance on my TV show, Pitbulls and Parolees. AJ was always extremely, extremely intelligent. Just brilliant, which is what attracted me to him. He could have been on Jeopardy and probably just aced it. There wasn't a topic he didn't know, quite a bit about. Always held it together. He had this, I call it like the James Dean persona, where he was kind of the guy that kind of just sat back, and just observed everybody, making fools of themselves or, acting amok. And he was just taking it all in. I'll never forget, right when he first got out of prison, he got confronted by another former felon that I had working for me. And this particular guy, David, had talk about a Napoleon complex. Just, thought he was tougher than he was. Had to run up on everybody and, I'm the big dude here, and just shut the fuck up, David. But anyways, I'll never forget it. I was in my kitchen looking out the window. I was washing dishes, and I saw AJ leaning up against the fence in the front yard. And mind you, AJ had only been out like a week. I've been doing 14 years in prison. So I saw David walk up to him, and you could tell by David's body language that he was getting like pumped up. And AJ, literally, it was like a scene from a James Dean movie. AJ's just like leaning up against the fence, smoking a cigarette, like taking long, smooth drags off the cigarette. And David is like throwing his arms up in the air. You can see he's getting a little bit closer. And I'm like, is this guy, are they going to like fight? So I go out there and I'm like, hey, and David kind of laps it off. It's cool. I'm just getting to know your man. And AJ just kept it in. And I'm like, wow, this guy really has his shit together. So he was, I would say the first year he was out, it was okay. It was good. He was, he picked up on things really quick. He was, even though he did 14 years in prison, he could fix cars and he knew how to build stuff. And he was just a really smart guy. And then one day, he just started acting erratic with my employees. Flying off the handle, just acting insane. I won't get into all the details because it'll just take too long. But this went on for a while, and my employees were coming to me saying, hey, what the hell's wrong with this, your guy here, your husband, And my employees were a mixture of the non-criminal element and the ones that had come out of prison. And, they were like, we're not like saying anything to him because he's your husband, but, he's like out of control. Like he's like just acting really, just unpredictable. So as time went on, I would say months, the behavior got worse. And now, mind you, I never suspected anything. And one of my other employees who was a former felon, been out of prison, Alfred. Oh my God. Rest in paradise, Alfred. Loved him. Older guy, just smooth. Older guy. He came to me and he's like, you could tell he didn't want to like say anything too much because I had this code between them, between all the guys that had been in prison. They didn't want to rat each other out. But he saw that I was struggling with AJ's behavior. And all he said was, I feel really guilty coming to say anything to you, but you need to go out into the barn and check in the electric panel, like where the fuses are. I said, what? He says, that's all I'm going to tell you. So I do, and I find what looks like drugs. I didn't know what kind of drugs. They were like in a little plastic bag. So I confront AJ, and of course he flies off the handle, denies it, the whole bit. But that was the start of stuff, and that's when I realized that he was on drugs. Turned out to be heroin and meth at the same time, and it got out of control. It spun out of control. His behavior towards me got borderline violent. And then, mind you, this is a guy, even though he had a violent past, he was amazing to me. He and I never got into not even an argument. So during this drug-fueled time in our lives, he one time got pissed off when I tried to confront him in front of other employees. He spun around and got me from behind and like had me in a headlock and put a butcher knife to my cheek. And in front of all the other employees, started laughing, making fun of me. Another time when I caught him doing drugs outside. It was a crazy situation. I saw him go off, and I was cooking, and I was looking out the window, and I saw him go off next door, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what he's doing. And I ran out the back door. Now, mind you, I don't know why. I had a little steak knife in my hand, from washing dishes. I just didn't put it down. I don't know why. And I ran out after him, confronted him, And I'm crying. I was crying. And I remember saying to him, "You're killing me right now. Like, I feel like you've just put this knife into my heart." And he laughed. And that's when he grabbed my hand with the knife and he put it to my chest. And he was like pushing on it. He goes, "Yeah? Yeah? You want me to put a knife through your heart?" Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that's when I realized, wow, people do things under the influence and don't realize what they're doing. Because months later, AJ would get arrested for crimes, some of which he did not do, but a lot of them he was involved with or around or had knowledge of. So there was some justification there. But when he went back to jail and prison ultimately and he sobered up, you know, of course he was just a wave of emotion. And just some of the stuff he didn't remember at all. And he was being honest. He didn't remember any of it. But I think my biggest frustration was not being able to find the resources to get help. Just, you know, not being able to afford the most, and that's mostly what it was. There was nothing low income or free. And the reason I was reminded about this whole situation and this whole topic to even talk to you all about was recently I had an employee come to me, currently, who is an alcoholic, been sober for a year, and went to get their medication. They have medication out that helps suppress the cravings. Went to get the medication to, you know, keep their sobriety moving forward. And when they went to pick up the prescription, it was $600. $600. And I think that's probably for like 30 days worth. I'm not sure. And actually it might have been less. And I'm like, how are people supposed to fight their addictions and their sobriety? And hey, don't get me wrong. You know, I know that they say addiction is a disease, it's mental health, and I get it to some point. So I ride the middle of the fence on addiction. You know, it pisses me off at the same time, but I also see people that I love and I know that are struggling and that are good people. Now, unfortunately, AJ, you know, and I realized that he was not a good person after years. I don't know if drugs did it or whatnot. We ended up getting divorced. And then I saw a different side of him after the divorce. But I'm even talking about currently employees that I have now, people that I have now, family members. I know them to be good people. So I wish I had the answers for somebody who has a loved one getting out of prison, just got out of prison, or maybe you're you're someone who just got out of prison, you're about to get out of prison. But I would have to say that if you've ever had any addiction issues whatsoever, that just goes to the top of the list. That just goes over anything else I've told you. Okay? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the plans are. I don't have a database of these places. Now, I will say this. The one rehab program that has helped so many of my employees is called Recovery Unplugged. They call it RU. It's mainly for musicians trying to get off of drugs and alcohol. But let's face it, I've done the rehab tour with my employees. Like I know them all, okay? And I would have to say that Recovery Unplugged was the one that was the most genuine, the most helpful. They even took some of my people that were not even musicians just to get them in. Yes, you got to pay, but it might be at least a starting point. You know, to call them. They have locations all over the country, beautiful facilities. To call them and at least maybe ask for a source. Maybe if you can't afford them, which I totally get, maybe they have some direction to point you in. So at this point, Recovery Unplugged are the only addiction specialists that I trust. I'm sure there's plenty more out there that are great. It's just those are the ones that I've come into contact with. So write that name down, Recovery Unplugged. I know they have them in Florida. They have one in Nashville, Austin. They have them, not a whole bunch of them, but I would say at least half a dozen throughout the country. And make contact with them and see if they can give you sources where either it's free or at least cheaper. They do offer scholarships, meaning if you plead your case, sometimes they'll take you in for free. But I just wanted to address addiction and how it plays a part in committing crimes. Because let me tell you, people, for those of you that are shaking your head right now and saying, bullshit, they know what they're doing when they're messed up on drugs or alcohol. I'm telling you, depending on how much they have done, how far they are down that dark rabbit hole, a lot of times they don't. I have seen it with my own eyes. Okay? And you know me, I ain't no bullshitter, okay? All right, y'all, thank you for thank you for allowing me to get up on top of the soapbox. And let's see if we can hang for another 90 days, right?